There were nights no one knew about. Nights where your smile disappeared the moment the room went quiet. Nights where you stared at the ceiling asking questions you were too exhausted to speak out loud. You carried battles in silence because you learned early that not everyone understands invisible pain. Some people only believe in wounds they can touch, but heaven saw every scar, every tear you wiped away before anyone noticed. Every moment you almost gave up, but didn't. And now, listen carefully, because this message is not accidental. You did not survive by luck. You survived because something greater held you together while everything around you was trying to pull you apart. There were seasons when you thought your prayers were being ignored. You begged for answers. You begged for relief. You begged for one clear sign. But instead of immediate rescue, there was silence. Heavy silence. The kind of silence that makes a person question everything. The kind of silence that forces the soul into the deepest chambers of itself. And yet, that silence was not abandonment. It was preparation, because strength is not born in comfort. Strength is born when a soul refuses to break while carrying weights no one else can see. You were being forged, not punished, forged. Every disappointment, every betrayal, every closed door, every delayed answer, every lonely night, every battle you fought without applause was shaping something inside you that comfort never could. Most people only celebrate victories they can witness. But the greatest victories happen in secret. The world celebrates loud triumphs. Heaven celebrates silent endurance. And you endured. When your heart was shattered, you still got up. When people misunderstood you, you stayed quiet. When others betrayed your loyalty, you refused to become bitter. When darkness whispered that your life had no meaning, you kept moving forward anyway. Do you understand how rare that is? Many people look alive on the outside while surrendering inwardly. But you, even while broken, even while tired, even while bleeding internally, you kept walking. That matters more than you know, because the hardest battles are never physical. The hardest battles happen in the mind, in the soul, in the hidden places where fear and faith collide, and there were moments you stooped. Completely alone in that battlefield. No applause, no reassurance, no rescue. Just you and the decision not to quit. You have no idea how powerful that decision became. Hell expected you to collapse. People expected you to stay down. Pain expected to define you. But something inside you refused to die. Even when your voice trembled, there was still a flicker of belief buried under the exhaustion. And heaven protected that flicker. That is why you are still here. Not because life was easy. Not because people were kind. Not because the road was smooth. You are still here because purpose would not release you. There is something extraordinary about a person who survives seasons that should have destroyed them. Pain changes people. But hidden pain changes people differently. It teaches discernment. It teaches restraint. It teaches depth. You stop needing constant validation because suffering taught you that applause disappears quickly. You stop chasing shallow connections because betrayal taught you the difference between attention and loyalty. You stop depending completely on people because disappointment revealed how fragile human promises can be. And somewhere during all that suffering, you changed, not loudly, quietly. You became harder to deceive, harder to manipulate, harder to break. You learned how to survive emotional winters. You learned how to sit in silence without collapsing. You learned how to keep faith alive even when your emotions were screaming the opposite. That transformation did not happen accidentally. It happened because pressure reveals identity. And your pressure revealed resilience. But let us be honest. There were moments you almost lost yourself. Moments where exhaustion wrapped around your spirit like chains. Moments where you questioned whether continuing was even worth it. You smiled in public while privately fighting storms nobody could imagine. You carried responsibilities while secretly feeling empty. You encouraged others while your own soul was desperate for encouragement. You kept showing up while internally falling apart. And still, you survived. That alone is evidence that something greater has been carrying you, because human strength alone would not have been enough. There were attacks against your peace. attacks against your confidence, attacks against you. Identity. The enemy tried to convince you that you were forgotten, unworthy, replaceable, too damaged, too late, too broken. But those lies failed. You know why? Because truth survives even when emotions collapse. And the truth is this: you were never abandoned. You were being strengthened in hidden places. The greatest warriors are not created during easy seasons. They are created in valleys, in silence, in isolation, in moments where nobody claps for their survival. That was your season, a hidden season, a painful season, a refining season. And now you are stepping out of it, not as the same person who entered, but wiser, stronger, sharper, more discerning, more aware. You used to fear loneliness. Now you understand solitude. You used to fear rejection. Now you recognize protection. You used to fear delays. Now you see preparation. Everything changed, including you. The pain that once weakened you now gives you vision. Because suffering opened your eyes. You can now sense fake intentions quicker. You can now recognize manipulation faster. You can now hear dishonesty hiding behind flattering words. That wisdom cost you something. It cost tears. It cost heartbreak. It cost sleepless nights. But wisdom purchased through suffering becomes permanent. And there is another reason your battle was so intense. Because your future matters more than you realize. Darkness does not attack empty vessels this aggressively. The intensity of the war around your life was evidence of the purpose within your life. Something valuable is ahead, something meaningful, something significant, and the enemy knew it before you did. That is why confusion surrounded you. That is why distractions chased you. That is why discouragement kept knocking at your door. The goal was never simply to hurt you. The goal was to exhaust you enough to make you surrender. But you didn't. Even when your energy vanished, you still moved forward. Even when answers never came, you still held on. Even when nobody understood your struggle, you kept fighting silently. That kind of endurance shakes the spiritual world, because silent faith terrifies darkness. Anyone can believe when life feels easy. But to believe while suffering, to keep going while wounded, to continue while confused, that is rare, that is powerful. And now heave. N is saying, the season that nearly destroyed you is ending. Read that again carefully. The season that nearly destroyed you is ending, not because you manipulated circumstances, not because you forced outcomes, but because your endurance completed its work. There are blessings that only arrive after transformation. Some doors cannot open until a soul becomes prepared to walk through them wisely. You were being prepared, not ignored. Prepared. You kept asking why everything felt delayed. Because premature blessings can destroy unprepared people. You had to become stronger first, more disciplined first, more discerning first, more spiritually grounded first. Otherwise, the very thing you prayed for could have become the thing that ruined you. So heaven slowed certain things down to protect your future. Even your heartbreak carried protection. Even your disappointments carried direction. Even the closed doors carried mercy. You simply could not see it while standing inside the storm. But one day, you will look back at everything that hurt you and realize not every loss was truly a loss. Some things had to leave. Some people had to walk away. Some opportunities, unities had to collapse. Because they were connected to a version of your life you were never meant to remain in. You were evolving, and evolution requires separation. That is why certain friendships faded. That is why certain environments became uncomfortable. That is why your spirit stopped feeling connected to places that once felt familiar. Growth changes appetite. You began craving peace more than attention, depth more than popularity, truth more than comfort. And not everyone can follow you into that transformation. Some people only knew the old version of you, the version that tolerated disrespect, the version that stayed silent to keep others comfortable, the version that accepted crumbs while pretending they were enough. But that version is disappearing because pain awakened something inside you: discernment, strength, boundaries, clarity. You no longer beg for what should arrive naturally. You no longer chase people who repeatedly show indifference. You no longer force connections that drain your spirit. And that change is sacred. Because self-respect is spiritual maturity. You finally understand your value is not determined by who stayed. Psalm. Everyone lost access to you because they mishandled your heart. And that loss belongs to them, not you. You spent too long blaming yourself for everything, too long carrying guilt for wounds others created, too long questioning your worth because someone else lacked the ability to recognize it. But now your eyes are opening. And once a soul truly awakens, it cannot return to blindness. You are entering a season where peace will matter more than performance. A season where authenticity will matter more than approval. A season where inner stability will matter more than outward image. Because suffering stripped away illusions. And honestly, that stripping was painful. There were moments your entire identity felt shattered. You no longer recognized your own life. You no longer recognized yourself. Everything familiar started disappearing. And fear whispered, "What if nothing gets better?" But here you are, still standing, still breathing, still moving, still believing. That alone proves the whisper was lying. You survived what was supposed to destroy your confidence. You survived what was supposed to harden your heart permanently. You survived what was supposed to silence your purpose. And now there is something different about your spirit. Calmness, not weakness, calmness. The kind that comes after surviving emotional warfare. The kind that no longer panics over temporary storms. Because once a person survives their darkest season, smaller fears lose their power. You have already faced nights that felt unbearable. So now you walk differently, not arrogantly, but with awareness. You know what it means to lose. You know what it means to grieve silently. You know what it means to rebuild from emotional ashes. And because of that, your compassion deepened. Broken people often become the safest people, because pain taught them what cruelty feels like. You became softer towards struggling souls, more patient with wounded hearts, more understanding towards silent battles. And heaven noticed that too. Your suffering did not make you cruel. It made you deeper. That matters. In a world obsessed with appearances, depth is rare. Many people know how to impress. Very few know how to endure. Very few know how to remain kind after being hurt repeatedly. Very few know how to carry pain without poisoning everyone around. Them. But you kept fighting to protect your heart from bitterness. And that invisible fight mattered more than you realize. Because bitterness would have changed your destiny. Bitterness closes what faith opens. And despite everything, you still hoped. Maybe quietly, maybe weakly, maybe imperfectly. But hope survived inside you. That small surviving hope became a weapon, a light in darkness, a declaration that pain would not have the final word over your life. Listen carefully now. Your tears were never wasted. Your waiting was never meaningless. Your silent endurance was never unseen. Every lonely prayer, every trembling moment, every hidden breakdown, every silent act of courage, heaven recorded all of it. Nothing was ignored, nothing was forgotten, and now things are shifting. You can feel it. The heaviness is lifting. The confusion is breaking. The fog is clearing. Not because life suddenly became perfect, but because your spirit is no longer chained to despair. You are stronger now, not loud, not boastful. Strong in a quieter way, a deeper way. The kind of strength suffering creates. And that strength will carry you into the next chapter. Of your life. A chapter where peace returns. A chapter where clarity increases. A chapter where doors begin opening that once refused to move. But this time, you will walk through those doors differently. Wiser, more careful, more grounded. You will no longer ignore red flags just because you fear loneliness. You will no longer betray yourself trying to save relationships built on imbalance. You will no longer shrink your spirit so others feel comfortable around your light. You learn too much to return backward. And yes, there will still be challenges ahead. But now you know something you did not know before. You know you can survive. That changes everything. Fear loses power once survival becomes memory. You already endured the unbearable. So now your spirit carries evidence that future storms cannot easily intimidate you. That is why your endurance mattered. It was building unshakable confidence, not confidence in circumstances. Confidence in what carries you through circumstances. And perhaps that is the greatest victory of all. Not external success, not applause, not recognition, but discovering that even in your weakest moments, you were never, truly alone. Something greater stayed beside you through every valley, through every betrayal, through every sleepless night, through every disappointment, through every silent cry. You were carried, and one day people will see the strength in you and assume you were always this strong. They will not know about the nights you almost broke. They will not know about the silent wars inside your mind. They will not know how many times you rebuilt yourself privately, but heaven knows. And you know that is enough, because true strength does not need constant recognition. It simply exists, quietly, powerfully, unshaken. So hear this clearly. The hardest test of your life is ending. The season of hidden suffering is closing. The chapter of silent warfare is fading, and you are emerging stronger than the pain that tried to bury you. Not perfect, but stronger, not untouched, but wiser, not fearless, but unshakable. The fire did not consume you, it revealed you. And now, walk forward without fear. What almost destroyed you has become proof that you can survive far more than you once believed. Your story is not ending in defeat. Your story is becoming evidence that silent endurance creates unstoppable souls. And the next time darkness whispers that you are weak, remember this. Weak people do not survive what you survived. Weak people do not continue loving after heartbreak. Weak people do not keep standing after invisible wars. Weak people do not rise again after emotional devastation, but you did, again and again and again. So lift your head. The battle changed you, but it did not defeat you. The pain wounded you, but it did not finish you. The silence tested you, but it did not destroy your faith. You are still here, still breathing, still chosen by purpose, still carried by grace, still standing after everything meant to break you. And that is your victory. The silent battle changed you. There was a battle happening inside you that nobody fully understood. People saw your face, but they did not see the pressure crushing your thoughts at night. They heard your voice, but they did not hear the exhaustion hidden behind every sentence. They watched you continue moving through life without realizing how many times you were secretly fighting the urge to give up. That was the hardest part. Not the part in itself, but carrying pain in silence. Because silent battles change a person differently. When suffering becomes invisible, the soul learns how to survive without applause. You stopped expecting everyone to understand you because you realize some struggles cannot be explained with words. Some wounds are too deep for conversation. Some heartbreaks are too heavy for language. And during those dark moments, something inside you started changing. Not loudly, quietly. You became stronger in places nobody could see. You learned how to sit alone with your thoughts and still keep going. You learned how to cry without letting bitterness consume your heart. You learned how to continue showing kindness even while carrying invisible scars. That kind of strength cannot be taught. It is born through survival. The silent battle forced you to grow beyond the version of yourself that depended on constant reassurance. Because there were seasons when reassurance never came. No one rescued you emotionally. No one fully understood your inner war. You had to stand up internally and fight for your own peace. And that changes a human being forever. Pain stripped illusions away from you. It showed you who truly cared. It revealed which relationships were real and which were only temporary comfort. It exposed the difference between people who speak beautifully and people who stay loyally. That wisdom came with tears, but it also gave you discernment. Now you notice energy differently. You notice dishonesty faster. You notice manipulation quicker, because suffering sharpened your awareness. And although the battle exhausted you, it also awakened you. You are no longer the same person who entered that storm. Before the pain, you trusted too easily. Before the disappointment, you ignored red flags. Before the betrayal, you kept shrinking yourself just to keep others comfortable. But the silent battle changed that. Now there is something deeper in your spirit, a calm strength, a quiet awareness, a resilience that does not need to announce itself loudly. You survived moments that should have shattered you emotionally. And because of that, smaller fears no longer control you the same way. You already know what darkness feels like. You already know what emotional isolation feels like. You already know what it means to rebuild yourself from internal ruins. And yet, you are still standing. That matters. Because many people surrender inwardly long before life visibly collapses around them. But you kept fighting internally even when nobody saw the war. That hidden endurance became your transformation. The battle did not only wound you, it revealed you. It revealed the strength you did not know you carried. It revealed the faith hiding underneath your fear. It revealed the resilience buried beneath your exhaustion. And now, you walk differently, not because life became easier, but because the silent battle taught you something unforgettable. You can survive storms that once looked impossible. God was not ignoring you, He was preparing you. There were moments you truly believed heaven had gone silent. You prayed, and nothing changed. You waited, and no answer came. You cried in private, while life around you kept moving as if your pain did not matter. That silence hurt more than the struggle itself, because deep down you were not only fighting circumstances, you were fighting the terrifying feeling of being forgotten. You wondered why doors kept closing, why opportunities disappeared, why people walked away, why the season of waiting seemed endless. And slowly, the enemy whispered dangerous thoughts into your mind. Maybe God abandoned you. Maybe your prayers are pointless. Maybe nothing will ever change. But those whispers were lies born from exhaustion, because what felt like abandonment was actually preparation. You were being shaped in hidden places, and preparation rarely feels comfortable while it is happening. A seed buried underground probably looks dead before it becomes a tree. And in the same way, parts of your life had to go through darkness before growth could happen. You kept asking for immediate relief, while heaven was building long-term strength inside you. Because some blessings are dangerous when received too early. Some doors require wisdom before they open. Some responsibilities require maturity before they arrive. And if certain things had entered your life before your spirit was ready, they could have destroyed you instead of blessing you. So the waiting season became a classroom. Pain became a teacher. Silence became training. Every delay was shaping your character. Every disappointment was sharpening your discernment. Every lonely season was teaching you how to depend less on temporary things and more on eternal truth. But while you were inside the process, you could not fully see it. You only saw the tears, the confusion, the frustration. You only saw prayers that seemed unanswered. Yet behind the scenes, something deeper was happening. Your spirit was becoming stronger. You were learning endurance, learning patience, learning wisdom, learning how to stand even when emotions collapsed. That kind of growth cannot happen in comfort. It happens in wilderness seasons, in seasons where faith becomes your only light. And yes, there were nights you nearly gave up, nights you questioned your own purpose, nights where you begged for one sign that your suffering meant something. But even then, heaven was still working. Silence does not mean absence. A teacher is often silent during the test, and the hardest tests create the strongest souls. You were not being rejected. You were being refined. Every betrayal taught you discernment. Every heartbreak taught you depth. Every delay taught you trust. Every closed door redirected your path away from places never meant for your destiny. One day you will look back and realize certain prayers were not ignored. They were answered differently. Some people had to leave because they could not go where your future is taking you. Some opportunities had to collapse because they were distractions disguised as blessings. Some seasons had to break you emotionally because pride, fear, and dependency needed to fall away before your next chapter could begin. Preparation often feels painful because transformation requires surrender. The old version of you could not carry the future waiting ahead. So life began changing you from the inside out, quietly, slowly, painfully, and now you are beginning to understand something powerful. The waiting season was never punishment. It was protection. It was preparation. It was heaven building a stronger foundation beneath your life, because what is coming next requires a stronger spirit than the one you had before. And despite all the confusion, despite all the loneliness, despite all the unanswered questions, you survived the process. You are still standing, still believing, still moving forward. That alone proves you were never abandoned. You were being prepared for a future your current pain could not yet fully understand. You did not survive to remain broken after everything you endured, after all the nights filled with silent tears, after all the battles nobody knew you were fighting. You must understand something deeply. You did not survive all of that just to spend the rest of your life trapped in pain. The storm was never meant to become your identity. Yes, it wounded you. Yes, it changed you. Yes, it left scars in places nobody can see. But scars are proof of healing, not proof that your life is over. For too long, you carried your pain like a permanent prison. You replayed the betrayal, the disappointment, the rejection, the moments that shattered your confidence. And somewhere inside your exhaustion, you started believing the damage would define you forever. But that is not the truth. Broken seasons are chapters. They are not the entire story. You survive because there is still purpose attached to your life. There is still meaning ahead of you. There is still light waiting beyond this darkness. The enemy wanted your suffering to become your final identity, wanted you to live afraid to trust again, afraid to love again, afraid to hope again, afraid to dream again. Because fear keeps people emotionally imprisoned long after the pain itself has ended. And maybe that happened to you for a while. Maybe you became guarded, emotionally distant, tired of giving your heart to people who mishandled it, tired of expecting good things only to watch them disappear, tired of rebuilding yourself after every disappointment. But listen carefully. Your heart may be tired, but it is not dead. There is still strength inside you, still purpose inside you, still life inside you. And that is why you cannot remain trapped in the ruins of your past. You were not created merely to survive pain. You were created to rise beyond it. The fire was never sent to destroy your spirit. It was sent to refine it. Gold is purified through intense heat. And in the same way, your suffering exposed what was weak, temporary, and false inside your life. It stripped away illusions. It stripped away dependency on people who could not carry your destiny. It stripped away the desperate need for constant validation. And although the process hurt deeply, it also revealed your resilience. Ins, you are stronger now than you were before the storm. Not because pain is beautiful, but because survival transformed you. You now see life differently. You value peace differently. You guard your energy differently. You recognize your worth differently. The version of you that existed before the pain would not recognize the strength you carry now. Because hidden battles create hidden power. And one of the greatest lies suffering tells people is this: you will never feel whole again, but healing is possible. Not instant healing, not perfect healing, but real healing. The kind that slowly teaches your heart how to breathe again. The kind that teaches your spirit that joy is still allowed after grief. The kind that reminds you your future is not cancelled because your past was painful. You are not meant to live permanently chained to old wounds. You are not meant to spend your life reliving moments that already ended. You are not meant to carry guilt for battles that were never fully your fault. At some point, survival must become transformation. At some point, the person who crawled through darkness must finally stand up and walk toward the light. And that moment is beginning for you now. The heaviness is lifting, the fear is weakening, the hopelessness is losing its grip. Not because life suddenly became easy, but because your spirit is remembering its strength again. You survived too much to doubt yourself now. You survived betrayal that should have hardened your heart completely. You survived loneliness that should have broken your spirit. You survived emotional wars that should have destroyed your confidence. And yet, you are still here, still breathing, still fighting, still becoming. That means your story is not over. There are still blessings ahead, still meaningful connections ahead, still peace ahead, still purpose ahead. And this next chapter of your life cannot be built from the mindset of permanent brokenness. You must stop speaking over yourself as if pain owns you forever. It does not. The darkness was a season, not your destiny. You are allowed to heal, allowed to smile again, allowed to trust carefully again, allowed to dream again, allowed to believe life still holds beauty for you. Because surviving pain was never the final goal. Transformation was. And now, the same person who once cried in silence is becoming someone stronger, wiser, deeper, and more powerful than the suffering that tried to destroy them. You did not survive to remain broken. You survived to become unshakable.